Some people say no to everything, not because they're confident, not because they're healed, but because somewhere along the way, saying no became safer than being wrong. They learned that distance feels powerful, that silence feels clean, that disappearing feels like control. So they call it boundaries, they call it self-respect, they call it growth. But what if it isn't strength at all? What if it's fear, wearing a smarter name? This isn't about blaming you, and it's not because you're broken. Your brain learned this pattern for a reason. It learned it after disappointment, after being misunderstood, after opening up and realizing the cost was higher than expected. At some point, staying started to feel dangerous. Explaining yourself felt exhausting. Trust stopped feeling safe. So your mind adapted. It didn't ask what would make you fulfilled. It asked what would make you survive. And the answer was distance. Distance from conflict. Distance from uncertainty. Distance from situations where you might be rejected, misunderstood, or exposed. Not because distance heals you, but because distance feels quiet, predictable, controlled. Think about the last boundary you set. Was it because someone clearly crossed a line, or because you felt uncomfortable before anything even happened? That difference matters more than most people realize, because a boundary is supposed to protect connection, not replace it. But slowly, subtly, boundaries stopped being filters and started becoming exits. You didn't stay to clarify. You didn't stay to repair. You didn't stay long enough to be seen. You left early, and you told yourself that was wisdom. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Your brain does not care if you are fulfilled. It only cares if you are safe. And safety to the brain means familiarity, not growth, not depth, not truth. So when something introduces uncertainty, a disagreement, a misunderstood tone, a moment where you don't know how someone feels about you, your brain doesn't ask, "Can this be repaired?" It asks, "How do we escape?" And escape feels like boundaries, even when it's actually avoidance. This is how the pattern forms. Something hurts once, so you create a rule. Something hurts again, so you create another rule. Soon your life is full of invisible lines no one else can see. People don't know where they stand with you. What's allowed? What's dangerous? What will cause you to disappear? And when they cross a line they didn't even know existed, you pull away. You don't explain. You don't repair. You retreat. And the brain rewards this with relief. Relief feels like proof you did the right thing. After a while, you start noticing something strange. The same story keeps repeating. Different people, same ending. They disappoint you. They misunderstand you. They fail you in small human ways. And each time, you reach the same conclusion. They weren't safe. They weren't aligned. They weren't meant to stay. But patterns don't repeat because the world is cruel. They repeat because something inside you hasn't been questioned yet. Ask yourself something honestly. If everyone eventually feels unsafe, if every relationship eventually feels exhausting, if every connection ends the same way, at what point do you stop asking what's wrong with them and start asking what your fear is protecting you from? Because sometimes the boundary isn't there to keep danger out. It's there to keep vulnerability away. And vulnerability is the one thing control cannot survive. Here's the part most people avoid admitting. Some of the people you cut off weren't toxic. They were human. They didn't read your mind. They didn't get it right immediately. They touched something tender in you. And instead of staying present, you labeled them. You distanced yourself. You left. Not because they were dangerous, but because staying would have required courage. At some point, your brain learned a very specific equation. Leaving first means never being abandoned. Saying no first means never being rejected. Withdrawing first means never being exposed. And it feels smart. It feels mature. It feels empowered. Until you realize something quietly terrifying. You're not being hurt anymore, but you're also not being touched by anyone, by anything. Safety is not the same as peace. Control is not the same as freedom. Walls don't just keep pain out. They keep life out too. If every relationship must be easy, if every conversation must feel comfortable, if every connection must never challenge you, then what you've built isn't healing. It's a perfectly designed emotional prison. Quiet, orderly, lonely. And the cruelest part? You call it peace. This doesn't mean all boundaries are wrong. Some boundaries are necessary. Some are life-saving. But others are fear, frozen into rules. Rules that keep you from being seen. Rules that keep you from being known. Rules that keep you from being chosen. Because you never stayed long enough to find out. Real boundaries don't punish. They communicate. Real boundaries don't disappear. They explain. Real boundaries don't isolate. They clarify. Fear-based boundaries do the opposite. They confuse people. They create distance. They end connection before it has a chance to mature. The real question isn't, what boundaries do I need to set? The real question is, what am I so afraid of feeling? That I keep everyone at a distance? Is it rejection? Is it abandonment? Is it being misunderstood? Is it being seen clearly and still not chosen? Because that fear didn't come from nowhere. It came from a moment when staying hurt more than leaving. But that moment is not every moment. And the part of you that learned to leave early was trying to protect you. The problem is it never learned when to stop. So now it reacts to discomfort as if it were danger. It treats uncertainty like a threat. It treats closeness like risk. It treats vulnerability like weakness. And you live smaller because of it. Safer, but smaller. Here's the truth most people avoid their entire lives. You cannot be deeply connected and fully controlled at the same time. You have to choose. Connection requires risk. Presence requires courage. Love requires the possibility of loss. Boundaries built on fear don't protect you. They isolate you. And isolation feels calm until you realize you can't feel anything anymore. Not the pain, but not the joy either. Not the fear, but not the intimacy. Not the risk, but not the reward. You wanted to protect yourself. But slowly, quietly, you erased parts of yourself instead. So maybe the question isn't, what boundaries do I need to set? Maybe the question is, what am I so afraid of? That I keep building walls instead of bridges? Sit with that. Don't answer quickly. Don't justify it. Just notice what tightens. Because that's not weakness. That's honesty. And honesty is the only place real connection can survive. Which part of this made you uncomfortable? Not angry? Not defensive? Uncomfortable. Write one sentence in the comments. And if this felt different, stay close. The next question will go even deeper.